Madeline and Theo had never truly disconnected, not in 7 years together. They were high-functioning professionals. She, a UX designer constantly bathed in blue light, and he, a corporate strategist whose phone never stopped buzzing. The burnout was real, and the growing cracks in their relationship were no longer subtle. It wasn't just fatigue, it was forgetting. Forgetting how to laugh, how to talk, how to look up from a screen and just exist. That's why Silverroot Lake sounded perfect. It was Theo who had found it, buried deep in a local travel blog. Unplug at Oregon's most isolated gem, the Silverroot Cabin Retreat. No internet, no signal, no roads even. The only way in. A 2-hour hike through the forest, from a barely marked trailhead. Madeline had hesitated, but after a rough product launch and 2 sleepless nights, she relented. No phones, Theo had said, smiling. Just you and me. On a damp Friday morning, they left their rental car at the edge of the forest, loaded their backpacks, and stepped into the green cathedral of old Oregon pines. The air felt different, alive. Mist clung to the mossy bark. Every few feet, Theo would stop to listen, not to anything in particular, just listening. "You hear that?" he asked once. Madeline raised an eyebrow. "Birds?" "No," he replied, smiling faintly. "Nothing. No cars, no notifications, just nothing." The trail wasn't marked with signs, only faded red ribbons tied to branches every half-mile. The deeper they went, the quieter it got. Not silent, but unnaturally hushed. Even the birdsong felt rehearsed, like nature was trying too hard to be peaceful. After 2 hours, the trees suddenly opened to a clearing, and there it was. The cabin. It was larger than expected. 2 stories with a dark wood finish, large windows facing the lake, and a small dock stretching over still black water. The whole lake was wrapped in a blanket of fog, and on the far side stood a dense wall of pine. No other houses, no boats, no noise. It was perfect. Inside, the cabin was rustic but modernized. Solar-powered lights, wood stove, shelves lined with dusty books, and a scent of cedar that instantly calmed Madeline's nerves. A spiral staircase led to a loft bedroom. A leather-bound guest book on the coffee table read, "Welcome to Silverroot. Disconnect to remember." That phrase lingered in her mind. Disconnect to remember. First night. They lit the stove, cooked canned soup, and played Scrabble by lamplight. Laughter returned, clumsy, real, unfamiliar. They slept tangled together under thick quilts as the lake lapped softly outside. But Madeline woke in the middle of the night. There was movement in the cabin. She was sure of it. Soft creaking. Not the kind that came from old wood settling. It sounded like footsteps. Slow. Careful. She lay frozen, listening. Nothing. Theo murmured in his sleep, turning over. She got up, walked softly down the spiral stairs, and checked the main floor. Everything was still. But the guest book on the coffee table was open now. She was almost sure she had closed it. The lake takes what you forget. Leave nothing behind. She shut it, locked the door, went back upstairs. The second day, the fog never lifted. Not once. They hiked the perimeter of the lake, but couldn't find the trail they had come in from. It had vanished. Theo brushed it off. "We just missed the ribbon. We'll find it tomorrow." But Madeline wasn't convinced. She marked a tree with a rock, a simple X, just to check. Later that evening, as she passed the tree again, the mark was gone. Not faded, gone. They turned back toward the cabin, and it wasn't where it should have been. They walked for nearly 20 minutes before the outline of the roof emerged from the mist. "Something's wrong with this place," she whispered. Theo didn't answer right away. Then he said, "We just got turned around. Forests are like that." But he didn't sound sure. That night, Theo didn't laugh. He stared into the fireplace too long. When she asked him what was wrong, he blinked slowly and said, "What's your last name again?" She thought he was joking. "Thorn." But he didn't respond, just nodded and stared at the flames. She found the guest book open again before bed. This time it read, "Your name is the first thing it takes. Speak it often. Speak it true." She didn't sleep. Madeline began to write in the margins of an old book. Her name, Theo's name, the date, where they were from. Anything to remember. She needed anchors. She even wrote, "Subscribe to Whisper Tales" as a joke in the corner of the page. If you're still with her through this unraveling descent, maybe you should subscribe too. Because from here on out, things only get darker. Into the mind-bending terror of isolation, identity, and a forest that remembers more than it should. The next morning, Theo wasn't in bed. Madeline descended the spiral stairs quietly, her heart already pulsing faster than it should have. The fire had gone out. The stove was cold. The front door was cracked open. She stepped outside barefoot, the damp wood of the porch biting into her skin. Theo stood at the edge of the lake, barefoot too, his pants soaked to the knees, just staring at the water. She called to him. He didn't respond. "Theo!" she shouted louder. He turned slowly, almost confused. "Oh, hey, you're freezing. What are you doing out here?" He blinked. I heard something. It was calling me, from under the water." Madeline rushed down to grab his hand. "Jesus, Theo, get inside." As they warmed up by the stove, she pressed him. "What did you mean something was calling you?" He shrugged. "I don't remember." She stared at him, chilled by the honesty in his tone. "You don't remember walking outside either, do you?" "I just said I heard something. That's all." But his voice was different, slower, like he was thinking through fog. She brought him tea. Wrote Theo Walker, 33, lives in Seattle. Husband across an old crossword puzzle page. Slipped it in his hoodie pocket. She kept writing more names, more details. Her memories, her parents' names, her childhood dog, the name of her high school, over and over. She hid the scraps of paper in the cabin like breadcrumbs for her mind. Later, that day, they tried to leave. Backpacks on, food in plastic tubs, compass in hand. They aimed east, where the trail should have been. But the deeper they went into the forest, the more unnatural it became. Trees bled black sap. The mist clung low, wrapping around their ankles. Birds chirped nonsense melodies, broken scales, repeating loops. Theo kept pausing. "We've seen that tree before." "No, we haven't," Madeline insisted, trying to stay focused. "Yes, we have. I carved something into it." He rushed forward to a birch with dark scars on its side. Madeline followed, heart racing. He pointed at the bark. "See? I wrote my name here." There was a mark, but it wasn't a name. It was a single word, scrawled deep. "Forgotten." Theo tilted his head. "That's not my handwriting." They turned around, and the cabin was there. They hadn't walked more than 5 minutes. The guest book again. That evening, they found the guest book open to a new page. This time, it read, "Don't run. It brings them closer. Burn your forgettings. Feed the fire with lost things." Madeline lit the fireplace and threw in the paper she'd found in Theo's hoodie. The flames sputtered, then glowed blue for a moment. Theo stared at it, like a child seeing fire for the first time. Madeline whispered to herself, "I remember my name. I remember who I am." That night, she heard voices, not in the cabin, outside, whispering from the trees. It sounded like her own voice, repeating her name over and over. She crept to the window and pulled back the curtain. Shapes, tall, thin, slow-moving shapes between the trees. Pale faces, no eyes. Mouths stretched into eternal silence, watching, waiting. Theo sat on the floor, scribbling something in a sketch pad. "What are you drawing?" He didn't look up. "They're us." "What?" "The people in the forest. They used to be us, before they forgot." He turned the pad around. The sketch was of them, but older, gaunt, with hollowed eyes. Their mouths sewn shut, their skin cracked and flaking like birch bark. "Did you dream this?" Theo shook his head. "I saw them." Morning. Again? Time was losing shape. Madeline awoke to find Theo sleeping downstairs, holding the sketch pad like a teddy bear. She made coffee on the propane stove and stepped outside. The lake rippled, though no wind blew. The fog remained. She spotted something on the dock, a shoe, a child's red sneaker. She walked down slowly. The shoe was soaked and moldy. The laces were rotted out. She turned it over. Inside was a small index card, smeared with ink. "My name is Abby. I'm 6. My mom forgot my face. Please help me remember." Madeline dropped it like it burned. She looked out over the lake and saw a girl, standing still in the water, half submerged, pale face, no expression. "Abby?" Madeline whispered. The girl smiled faintly and began to sink. Theo gets worse. He forgot what day it was, then what week, then her name. He began calling her roommate, then guest, then nothing. She showed him the paper she'd written on earlier. He read it. "I don't know who that is." Madeline broke down. She screamed at the forest, at the lake, at whatever intelligence this place held. Then she heard something whisper in her own voice. "Madeline Thorne, UX designer, lives in Seattle." Coming from the trees, mocking, repeating. She followed the sound, against her better judgment, deep into the woods. She found more papers, notes, drawings, letters, all soaked and stuck to trees. One read, "The cabin won't let you leave. The forest won't let you forget. The lake feeds on memory." Another, "We came in love. We left in pieces." She turned around, and the cabin was gone. After hours of wandering, she stumbled onto something she hadn't seen before. A second structure, smaller, made entirely of gray stone. The door creaked open. Inside were hundreds of journals, stacked to the ceiling, names scrawled on the spines. She pulled one at random. Kenneth Reeves, entered 1982, forgot by 83. Another, Jillian Hope, entered 2011, tried to swim, remembered too late. And then, a journal labeled Madeline Thorne started, sat on a table. It was blank. She stared in horror as ink began to bleed into the first page. Day 1, forgot mother's name. She slammed it shut and ran. The trees mocked her with whispers in her own voice. Theo Walker, 33rd, lost, forgotten, devoured. Returning. When she made it back, Theo was gone. Not dead, not taken. Gone like a memory wiped clean. His things were there, his backpack, his drawings, but no footprints, no struggle. As if he had evaporated from time itself. Only the sketch pad remained. On the final page, a new drawing. Madeline, alone, surrounded by tall, pale, hollow-eyed figures. And in the middle of the group, she was smiling.